Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining our webinar, 5 Reasons to Earn a Master's in Counseling at Divine Mercy University. So my name's Julie. I'm an admissions counselor for the counseling program at Divine Mercy University. And joining me is Mat Wuebben. Matt is one of our alumni. You graduated, what? It's been a year, a little over a year now, Matt?
May 2021.
Yeah, it's going by really fast for me.
Yeah, for me too.
Yeah, good. So we are going to get started with this webinar. We thank you for joining us. Thank you for your time this afternoon. Just a little housekeeping. If we're getting ready to present a great deal of information. There are bound to be questions. So as they occur to you, please feel free to pop them, into your chat or into your Q&A, and we'll tackle those questions at the end of the webinar. Doing it that way allows everyone to kind of weigh in as they can, and if someone has to run at the end of the webinar, they can drop off quickly, and we'll still receive all the information. All right, so thanks again for joining us here. Let's get going with this webinar. Again, my name's Julie. I'm an admissions counselor at Divine Mercy University for the School of Counseling, and joining me is Mat Wuebben. Matt is a recent alumni, graduated May of 21. Matt, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been doing since graduation?
Yeah, so I'm Mat Wuebben. I live in Greenville, South Carolina. Way back when I was looking at the School of Counseling, I lived out in Denver, Colorado. So that's an interesting piece in my story here that I might share. I got married in 2015. My wife and I have been married for seven years coming up here. We have 3 daughters, so nice growing family here. Love spending time with them. I work in a group practice and then in private practice as well. And my focus is on sexual addiction. So obviously a lot of stuff out there. Some hobbies of mine. I enjoy reading, woodworking, and writing. So a little bit about me there.
Great. Thanks, Matt. And thanks for joining us for this webinar. All right. So just a little bit of background about the university. We are Divine Mercy University. We were founded in the late 90s under the name Institute for the Psychological Sciences. So that college still exists. It houses our psychology side. So in addition to the Master's in Counseling, we offer an online Master's in General Psychology for people who don't necessarily need clinical skills, but they are in the helping profession and maybe they need a little insight into the person, the way the mind works, the way groups function, that kind of thing. Or maybe they need a master's level credential to advance in their field. So we get a lot of human resources professionals, school administrators, religious and clergy. A lot of those type of people tend to go into that degree program. We also have an on-site doctoral program. So we have an actual campus in Virginia with, a school, classroom, student center, library, all the things that regular colleges have pretty much. And we have doctoral students who are on campus almost year round working towards their doctorate in clinical psychology. But what they found through offering those programs was that there was such a need for counselors, and particularly for counselors of faith. So they decided to go ahead and add the second college that we're discussing, the School of Counseling, and the Master's in Clinical Mental Health Counseling. So when a school has more than one college, that's the point at which they take a university name. And that's how we went from being plain old IPS to Divine Mercy University. We seek to provide our students an effective academic and educational environment to support the integration of the human sciences and a Catholic Christian understanding of the person. All right, so our school is accredited. We are institutionally accredited by SACS, or the Southern Association. This is the baseline you should look for in any US school you attend. If you're looking at other colleges and they can't give you a simple yes to the institutional accreditation question, that's your sign to go very quickly in the opposite direction, right? So that's just the basic. The way it works in the US is each area of the country has its own accrediting agency. Each one has a different name. So where we are, our region is called the Southern Association. It goes from where we are in Virginia all the way down around to Texas. So UT, Auburn, UVA, all those schools are accredited by SACS, just like we are. When you start talking about psychology and counseling, there are a couple of extra accreditations that can be earned. APA, American Psychological Association, down there in the middle is kind of the big dog of all of those. And most people have heard of APA. DMU is APA accredited. In fact, we became only the second school in the whole history of the APA to receive the full 7-year accreditation grant on the first try, right? When you start talking about counseling, the extra accreditation for that type of program is known by the acronym CACREP, C-A-C-R-E-P. You don't see that up here yet because we're at the tail end of that process. CACREP stands for Council for Accreditation of Counseling and Related Educational Programs, C-A-C-R-E-P. It's a mouthful of alphabet soup. If you haven't heard about CACREP yet, just tell a couple people you're interested in becoming a therapist and you're bound to hear about it pretty quickly. So CACREP's a great thing to have. We're committed to earning it for our students, and we're actually at the tail end of the process of doing so. We've done everything we need to do to earn the accreditation. We're just waiting for them to schedule our on-site review and then hopefully award accreditation. I've heard some rumblings that they're going to be here this fall. So hopefully we can wrap up that on-site review by the end of the year and, hopefully, jump through the last little hoops this spring to become officially a CACREP school. So CACREP's a great thing to have. As I said, we're committed to earning it for our students, but the reality of it is that most states don't require it for licensing. So right now our degree is fine in 48 states. Once we wrap up this accreditation, the 48. So the 11 states that do require it will come under our umbrella, and our degree will be fine in 49 states. I said that all wrong. 38. Our degree is fine in 38 states. Sorry, math is not my strong suit, especially not today. So our degree is fine in 38 states. Once we wrap up the accreditation, the 12 states that do require it will come under our umbrella, and our degree will be fine in 49 states. The one holdout's going to be Illinois, and that's because Illinois is a state where you have to go to school in-state if you want to be licensed there. So maybe someday down the road we'll reconcile with Illinois, but for right now, it's going to be 49 states once we wrap up this CACREP thing. All right, any questions about accreditation? I'd be happy to talk about it more. Just pop those questions into the chat and we'll come back to this. All right. So what makes DMU different? So our program is different because we are an online hybrid, and we use our residency, practicum, and internship along with our online classes to teach the counseling skills that you'll need to live out your vocation as counselor. The most standout thing about us is our Catholic Christian meta model of the person. This model is unique to our new university. It was developed by our faculty, and it's the reason that most students choose our school. So I want to turn it over to Matt. Matt, you want to talk about the model of integration and how it kind of impacted your studies and how it affected your decision to come to DMU?
Yeah. Well, I'm one of those in that number that was swayed by the Catholic Christian meta model of the person. Way back in 2018, I was given this document right here, which at the time, this is what the CCMMP looked like. Very thin. It's 16 pages at that time. And this was what sold me pretty immediately on the program. I think in some counseling programs, you might see people as problems that need to be fixed. And this program sees people through the lens that God has for us. We are created good, and that's the starting point that we work out of. And that changes everything, changes the trajectory of how we apply treatment. It changed my worldview of just how I operate in the world, even outside of a professional standpoint. On a personal side, it shaped, looking at individuals that I crossed paths with in a whole new way. And that pamphlet eventually turned into this book. Nice hefty read here. But this was, second to the Bible, maybe, in terms of citations. We were always looking through this, understanding the person. And you're looking at, like Julie said, vocation. How does sin play into a person's life? How do their relationships? How do things like leisure, their hobbies, all of those components of who we are as a person, those get looked at through this lens. And that's going to be helpful for us when we're meeting clients. And certainly not all clients are Catholic, but we still can have this lens as we're looking at a person. If someone's not a Christian at all, we can still look at them through that goodness that God has, and that really develops a different sort of relationship than you might get from someone that went to a different university.
Awesome, thanks. So our program is informed and infused by this model. It's not in just one class. So you will encounter this throughout your time at DMU, and this way of thinking about persons, as integrated beings, body, mind, and soul. And so, as Matt said, when you inevitably encounter someone who doesn't believe in God, who doesn't want to talk about God, that's okay. We understand that the objective truth of who they are and how they were created doesn't hinge on their belief or unbelief, and we can look at them through the eyes of God. And this model will help you to do that. The other thing I hear in my travels through the university, I encounter internship site directors who tell us that our students, our graduates, are far better prepared than their peers who are supposedly at the same place in their education. A lot of that has to do with this training in the model. All right. So any questions about the model, please, again, pop it into the Q&A or the chat, and I'll be happy to tackle those at the end. So here we go. Number one reason to earn a master's in clinical mental health counseling at Divine Mercy University. Well, most people who embark upon this course of study want to become licensed mental health professionals. So this degree will get you there. It is designed to meet the licensure requirements in most states, 38 right now, as I said, hoping to jump up to 49 here pretty soon. As you move through your studies, your professors will give you assignments that relate to licensure just to make sure that you understand the process and that you're headed in the right direction. Fun fact, 100% of our graduates who attempt licensing achieve it. So Matt, do you want to talk a little bit about licensing and your experience in preparing for that, and then maybe actually going through it?
Yeah, so one of the very first classes that I took, we actually started looking at licensure and what was required to get to that stage several years down the road. And it felt like such a long time to have to wait to work to get to that. But that was really helpful for me. As I mentioned in my introduction, at the time I lived in Colorado and I moved here to South Carolina, it helped me to explore where I wanted to eventually live. And, in the current state, with certain states not being on the list for DMU, and that's going to change here in the future. But, we have to have that lens of, will this work where I'm going to be someday? And that was really helpful for me to kind of analyze that and not just will I be able to have a job, but what are the unique needs of the states or the communities that I was looking at? And I think, this is a great opportunity. I live in the Bible Belt. And so, coming from a Catholic worldview here, that's something that you're not going to have a lot of around here. And so it brings a unique marketability, so to speak, to have that under your belt. And I don't know, I think it really makes DMU stand out in a very unique way to be able to have that.
Great, thanks, Matt. So the way licensing works is it happens after you graduate. So like I said, as you move through your studies, your professors will give you assignments that relate to licensure just to make sure that you understand the process and that you're headed in the right direction. So after you graduate, you'll sit for a national exam, sometimes a state exam that varies by state. Counseling.org is a nice resource if you haven't found it yet. So you can go to their state-by-state knowledge center, click on your state. It'll tell you which exams you have to take, how long you have to work under supervision. There's also contact information for your state licensing board if you want to get in touch with them directly. So once you sit for those exams and then pass them, you're then provisionally licensed. And so just like a doctor does a residency after medical school, it's similar for counselors in that although you'll be working and being paid as a therapist, you will have to work under supervision for a time before you're fully licensed. Usually it takes about 2 years to wrap up that supervised period. So you're still in your supervised time, right, Matt?
Yep, I just entered my second year.
Okay, good. And how's that going for you? Do you still feel like you're still able to be a big boy therapist and
Yeah. It's a weird place because there's a lot of imposter syndrome where you feel like, gosh, I'm new, I don't know everything. But then you talk to your supervisor and they remind you, I'm a supervisor and I don't know everything. And I just recently asked a question to my supervisor that he couldn't answer. And so that shows that there's learning all through the process here. And it gives you the confidence to know that, everybody's out there kind of in that same boat. We're all learning. That's really the principle we should always be living by, is to have that learning lens on. And I don't know, you get to grow in confidence just through practice too.
Yeah, and have that little safety net of somebody there to run things by.
That really helps.
Yeah, great. Thank you. All right, so here we go. Onward. Second reason to earn a master's in clinical mental health counseling. Well, practical experience through the hybrid part of our online hybrid program. So there are certain aspects of this education that just don't lend themselves to online learning. Counseling is a helping and a people profession. So that's why we've established residency, practicum, and internship, just to make sure that you gain the skills you need in the best way we can teach them to you. So residency, those occur as you move through your online studies. And they use that time together here on campus over a long weekend to teach the counseling skills that don't lend themselves to online learning. So things like nonverbal communication, situational ethics. There are always a ton of presentations going on by faculty, students, and student groups. It's also a big gateway weekend, so all the professors are there with you. And they're looking to make sure that each student has gained the skills needed to be ready to move on to the next section. So the first one is always 8 weeks after you begin. So right now we're enrolling students for the January cohort. Students who start school in January will come to campus for the first time early in March. The second one's always a year later, so you come back the following March. And then the third one is 6 months to a year after the second one, depending on if you're full-time or part-time. They are 4 days long, so you would arrive on a Wednesday evening and stay through a Sunday afternoon. While you're here, they'll expect you to be on site and attend the whole program. There is a fee for that training that's built into your tuition. The breakdown is $1,500 per residency. That fee covers your training, obviously, but also your hotel and most of your meals while you're here. So, Matt, do you remember your residency experiences?
Yeah, my first one, I remember being very afraid, just not really knowing what to expect, but it turned out to be a great experience. And the things I like about residencies most is, being an online program, you get to see what you see of Julie and I right now, but it's a different sort of experience when you get to experience their whole person. They have legs, they're maybe taller or shorter than what you thought, right? But you get time between things to get to know them in a way that you wouldn't just in a classroom experience. It's hard to replicate that in a Zoom group that's pulled off to the side. Being able to be there with a person, you get to see them for who they are and hear more about their life story and their background. And each of those, you get to develop those relationships. These are people that you're in class with right now, but they're going to be your colleagues for life. And even though everyone's spread out across the world, I still talk to a lot of my classmates from time to time. I'll just give them a call. Hey, I've got questions about this sort of client or this sort of thing that I'm dealing with. What are your insights? And sometimes we just call to catch up. It's a opportunity to develop friendships. And I think the neat thing about DMU too, because DMU isn't, this big grand like Texas A&M sort of space, you get a unique opportunity to develop relationships with the professors too. I still keep in touch with some of the professors. Dr. West and I still communicate. And so that's a neat perk that not a lot of universities have to offer.
Yes, yeah, very true. So as you move through your studies, online studies, you'll do these 3 residencies. And once you finish your 3rd residency and the bulk of your online classes, you'll then step into practicum and internship. And these are done in your own area based on the kind of counseling work you'd like to do. So practicum comes first. Practicum is 100 hours of on-the-job training. And this is what gets you ready for the real hands-on counseling work of your internship. At least 40 of those 100 hours will be direct service with actual counseling clients. Once you finish that training, you'll then step into your 2 internships. Each one is 300 hours and spans 16 weeks. Now, you do have a director of internship who will work with you to help you identify in your area a few places you'd like to work based on your interest, whether it's marriage and family, addiction, trauma, whatever it is. Our internship placement is 100%, so you will get one and we'll help you with it. So Matt, where was your internship?
I worked at I guess it was kind of a family practice. Palmetto Family Works was the name of it, but it was just family structures. Originally, I was thinking that I would go off and do child-centered therapy. That was an area of interest that I had, and COVID happened about the same time. So I learned quickly that I couldn't do that online. So I looked for something else, but it was a great opportunity to learn something that I didn't know. And then it led me to finding where I am today.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. All right, any questions about residency, practicum, or internship, feel free to pop them into the chat or into the Q&A. All right, so third reason to earn a master's in clinical mental health counseling, our faculty, they are all practicing and experienced clinicians. So they do understand what you need to learn to live out your vocation as counselor. This is maybe a quarter of our faculty represented here in these pictures. Dr. Wuebben is our program director. So she makes all the decisions for the School of Counseling as of now. So she's relatively new to that position. And then beside her are Dr. Keys and Dr. Sharp. They are internship site directors for the Eastern and Western states. So Dr. Keys helps everyone east of the Mississippi, and Dr. Sharp helps everybody west of the Mississippi to find their internship placement. Dr. DiLiaco is one of our international professors. He resides in Philippines and works from there. So you'll see at the bottom of all of his messages, what time zone he's actually in, and a reminder not to call him at 2 a.m. And then Dr. Humes, she lives, I believe she's in the north central part of the country, somewhere Michigan or Minnesota, or one of those states up there. One of those.
I think Chicago, states. Maybe.
Chicago, is it? Maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. Illinois. All right. So again, you will have the opportunity to build relationships with our professors and, professional friendships and relationships that you'll need once you become a mental health professional, as Matt just indicated. All right. Want to tell us your favorite professor, or is that a secret?
Well, Dr. West is no longer at DMU. He's somewhere else, but he was my favorite. Dr. V was actually my advisor. Okay. And then I had Dr. Keys for internship. I did have Dr. Sharp because I lived in Colorado, so I had both of them. I've had just a lot of good experience with all of these individuals. I think the neat thing about DMU is it's a Catholic university, but not everybody's Catholic, so it offers that perspective there, and everybody's coming from a different place in the world. Dr. Dialeka, he was in the Philippines, and so that's a completely different world than what I grew up with. And so the individuals that are on faculty actually help to prepare you to meet unique individuals that you see in a counseling environment too. And I thought that was kind of a neat takeaway that I pulled from that too.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so fourth reason to earn a master's in clinical mental health counseling, well, a job, obviously. That's why most people earn this degree. They want to become therapists to help people reach flourishing through talk therapy. The last person I had doing this webinar with me was someone who graduated around the same time Matt did, and she said that she does all of these things in her work. So, you're well trained for a broad range of situations. So most people who earn this degree do it because they want to become, a clinician and help people reach flourishing through talk therapy. However, it is a pretty versatile degree. You can do lots of things with it. For a time, the Dean of Students at Divine Mercy University was someone who had a master's in counseling. And in the county where I reside, the woman who is in charge of social services, so she leads all the social workers in the county. She's someone who has a master's in counseling. So, you know, you can be a therapist, you can take it into lots of other areas as well, helping professions. A lot of people ask me, how much money am I going to earn? And I tell them quite truthfully, I don't know. So your search engine is your friend. You can kind of search and see what is the going rate in your area. If you work at a homeless shelter, you're going to earn a homeless shelter salary. If you live in a reasonably metropolitan area and you hang out your shingle and go into private practice, you're going to do quite well for yourself, right? So just have to do a little investigating and see what it looks like in your area. All right. So fifth reason to earn a master's in clinical mental health counseling. Well, it's an incredibly flexible program. It's online, you know, it's available 24/7 whenever it suits you to access the material. So as long as you have your computer and the internet, you can be just about anywhere in the world you want to be and still get your schoolwork done. As you move through your courses, your professors will arrange for weekly real-time meetings to do things like question and answer, discussion group review, that kind of thing. So although there are going to be times when it's just you and your computer and the work you have to get done, as with any other school, you will work very closely with your professors. You'll be able to build those relationships there. You'll also work very closely with the other students in your cohort, obviously, as Matt said, to build the professional friendships and relationships that you'll need once you become a mental health professional. All right, anything to add about this aspect, Matt?
I think this is one of those unique things that DMU has. For me, it was another selling point, and it really was beneficial because I moved across the country. And when I moved across the country, did that mid-semester, and I was able to keep up on my schoolwork. So drive all day, get the kids down in the hotel room, go down to the lobby and keep doing schoolwork. And that, I mean, you're not going to get that when you're in a classroom environment where you have to be at the desk. And this just provides a lot of flexibility. And one of the selling points, I mentioned this during our last webinar, Julie sold me on the program because I had a lot of excuses for why I couldn't do the program. I said I was about to have a baby. There's no way I'd be able to fit in school. And she politely pointed out that, oh, you could watch videos while you're rocking a baby. And I actually did that. It was easy enough to do. Pop your headphones in, you watch the lecture, and away you go. So if that cuts out an excuse for you, I hope it can be of help here.
Thanks, Matt. I'm going to plead the fifth. I don't actually remember saying that, but I'll take your word for it.
Yep. Got me sold pretty quickly.
Awesome. I'm glad you did. Look at you now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So our entrance requirements for the program are a bachelor's degree. We also require a GPA of 3.0 overall, or in your master, or in your last 60 credits. If you think your GPA might not quite hit that mark, it's not necessarily a deal breaker. I'll share my contact information at the end, and we can talk about it, you know, offline. So don't let that stop you from moving forward if you're a little below a 3.0. We also require the GRE. If you've never heard of that or never taken it, it is a standardized entrance exam for graduate school, kind of sort of similar to what you did for the SAT to get into your undergrad. The GRE is something you just have to do. We don't use it to make admissions decisions. So we really don't care what you get. We definitely don't care what you get in math. So you just have to do it, and that's all. We don't use it to decide anything about you. We just put it in your file and use it to show the accrediting agency that we're seeking out, quote unquote, good candidates. All right. I'm sorry you have to do it, but there it is. There are also a few other admissions documents, essays, resume, transcript, recommendation, that kind of thing. And once you begin your application, our financial aid experts will be in touch to talk with you about tuition, scholarships, which ones you should pursue, and what you can reasonably expect from us given your particular situation. If you're an international student, then your transcript will need to be translated if it's a language other than English. And if it's graded on a scale other than 4.0, like we use in the US, then it will need to be evaluated as well. If your native language is something other than English, then we do require the TOEFL, and you can see the score requirements for those there. All right. So here's where the rubber hits the road. It's right now, to attend this program, it's $898 per credit. It is a 66 credit master's degree. So 898 times 66 is 59,268. There's a $50 technology fee per class for a total of 1,100. Lab fees are $375 total. And then the residency fee we talked about that covers your training and the hotel and meals while you're here for that training, $1,500 per residency for a total of $4,500. So all that together gives you a total tuition value for the whole program, start to finish, of $65,243. Now, we have a number of ideas for ways to make that affordable. We do participate fully with the federal loan program, so if you felt like you wanted or needed a student loan, we can certainly help you get that set up. If you're working, some employers do offer tuition reimbursement, so it's worth investigating to see if that might be a benefit for you through your employer. We're also approved for the VA, the GI Bill. We're also a yellow ribbon school. So if you have those benefits or if they can be assigned to you, we do participate with all of those. DMU has a very nice scholarship program available. Our scholarships are designed very nicely so everybody qualifies for something. The way scholarships work is you can apply for 4 and you can accept 2. Right now they're giving away a bonus third scholarship, an extra $2,000 just for getting your paperwork started early. So that's an easy $2,000 you can pick up there. Some people use private funds. We also have a matching scholarship available. So if you can find some nonprofit support from outside of our institution, whether it's your church, religious or fraternal type organization or some sort of agency, as long as it's nonprofit, we would match those dollars up to $2,000, right? So easy way to double any outside scholarships you can find. There's also an interesting federal program called National Health Service Corps. If you search that name, I promise you it'll pop up first link. This is a tuition reimbursement program. The way it works is if you're willing to work in an area designated either low income or underserved for 2 years after you graduate, what you would do is go to their website, apply for a job through some sort of employer partnering with NHSC. And after you've served 3 months of that agreed upon 2-year period, they'll give you a lump sum of up to $50,000 toward your student loan debt or tuition costs in exchange for that service. Since you have to work under supervision anyway, it's a nice way to go if you can work it out. Right? So DMU does partner with a number of institutions, entities, dioceses, that kind of thing. So this is just a short list of a few of our partners. There are more on the website, and I think that list isn't even quite up to date. So we have some established scholarships with these institutions already. So if you have an affiliation, you can claim that. If you don't see your diocese or parish listed, that's perfectly fine. If you can get your parish secretary to send our financial aid experts a letter of good standing from your parish, that would be good for an automatic 15% tuition reduction right off the top. And then in addition to that, you could apply for any of the scholarships that you want to. Right? So partnership already established is a great way to go. We're not forming new ones, but we will give that 15% to any Catholic parishioners. All right. Any questions about the partnerships or scholarships, please pop them quickly into the chat or into the Q&A, and I'll be happy to tackle them here at the end. All right, again, our entrance requirements are the bachelor's degree, the GPA of 3.0 overall, or in your major or in your last 60 credits. We require the GRE, and as the last step in our admissions process, there are 2 online interviews to be done. The first one's easy. It's a quick 30 minutes with me. Mostly it's a coaching session to get you ready for the big interview. That one is a 3-hour online group interview with 2 or 3 other applicants to the program and 2 faculty members. Do you remember your interviews, Matt?
I remember the one with the 2 faculty members, and you just sparked my memory. I do actually remember now you coaching me through that, getting all those nerves worked out in preparation for meeting the big, scary professors. which turned out to be totally fine.
Huh,
And I
yeah.
graduated with one of the guys that I had my interview with. So that's
Oh,
cool
awesome.
to see that journey together.
That's really neat. Yeah, the interview sounds scary, but most people, once they're prepped and get over their first bit of jitters, actually have fun with it. It gets them excited for the program, and you know, it's a good way to kind of meet some professors and some potential future classmates.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I ask you to consider if this program is right for you by asking yourself these questions and, you know, being honest with yourself about the answers. Do you have the desire to help heal the whole person and to help people flourish? Do you want to have a career which enables you to answer the question, how can I help people? What can you do to make a positive contribution in others' lives? Can you be an instrument of healing? And finally, I like to ask everyone, because I'm the one who's on the hook to recommend you to the dean, if you were to apply and be admitted, is it something you'd be committed to finishing? Are you someone who finishes what you begin? If you can give yourself an honest yes to all of these questions, you're probably an excellent candidate for the program, and I'd love to help you through the application process. It's pretty quick, pretty straightforward. First step is just an online demographic form. It takes 20 or 30 minutes. You can do it today if you want to. Once we have that first part of the application, our financial aid experts will be in touch to start working through the scholarship process with you. We will work together to gather the remaining documents, essays, resume, transcripts, recommendation, etc. Once we have those documents and your financial aid work is done, we'll set you up for your interviews and then hopefully admission. Right now, we're enrolling for our January cohort, which begins January 11th, 2023. So I want to thank you for your time today. I appreciate your attendance at this webinar. This is my contact information. You can call or text me at that number. You can also email me anytime. As a thank you for attending the webinar today, we have a waiver of the application fee. That's a $55 value for you, and the code is CCMMT 1999. That stands for Catholic Christian Meta Model of the Person. All right, so thank you, Matt. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being here and sharing your experience as a student at
Absolutely.
It looks like we have a question here. Let's see what it is. Is Georgia one of our states? Yes, our degree meets all requirements for licensing in Georgia. We have a number of students in Georgia. All right, so I don't think that we have any other questions at this moment. So thank you again for attending our webinar. Feel free to reach out and use this application fee waiver code. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
All right, have a great day, everyone.